Hello again! Welcome back to the wide world of zombie movies. Our movie this time is The Quick and the Undead from 2006. But first, enjoy this trailer.
85 years ago, a viral outbreak turned 3/4 of the population into the Walking Dead. Those who survived had to take up a new trade. That's how the hunt began. Every hunter has rules. Kill the fresh ones first. Their muscle tissue is still intact. Then pick the rotting ones off one by one. Numbers don't matter if you stay in an open field. You can outrun them. And the most important rule of all, never let them lure you inside. This town, dead ain't dead enough. The Quick and the Undead.
There, wasn't that lovely? By the way, the trailer with the original music is available on YouTube if you're interested. Before we get started though, spoiler alert. The Quick and the Undead starts out with kind of a cryptic warning. Apparently, we're not going to enjoy this very much. I really hope they're wrong. So the movie begins with a zombie walking down the road and some narration. A zombie virus wipes out 3/4 of the world's population. 85 years later, out of the remaining survivors, some have begun hunting down the zombies. The government pays by the pinky. The whole movie has a western feel to it. The main character, Ren, was modeled after Clint Eastwood, and the actor's first name is Clint too. Awesome. Anyway, according to the movie, immunity to the virus is theoretically possible with continued limited exposure. As we're watching this, we see Ren injecting himself with some type of liquid which is never addressed anywhere else. Okay, it's inoculation. After that, we watch as he prepares to go hunting, gearing up with weaponry and whatnot. As he's getting ready, he fires off a round from his 6-shooter. Don't know why. I guess he saw something out of the corner of his eye. Oh well. In the next scene, we meet Hans. He's been working for years with Ren, supplying him with meat that he uses to lure the zombies out of hiding, like chum. Hans is annoying and shouldn't have lasted nearly as long as he did in the film. You'll see why shortly. So Ren stops to pick up the chum, and as he's about to leave, Hans asks for a gun because he says he needs one for protection. First, he was waiting for Ren out in the open, napping when we first see him. So you're sleeping out in the open with no gun, but you need protection all of a sudden? Second, how did he get the chum if he had no weapon with which to hunt and kill animals? The scene where he asked for a gun could have been skipped. By the way, Ren gave him a gun anyway. Nice. In town, it's devoid of life. Ren chums the streets and the Z's come out to take the bait. Ren begins picking them off one by one. While we're here, let's address the zombies. They're not bad and range in gore effects. The fresher zombies have more intact muscles, can move quicker, and lunge. The older ones are slower and aren't tricked by the chum. Few issues come up later with the zombies, but we'll address those when they arrive. So Ren's picking the Zeds off one by one. Suddenly, they notice him and attack. As they near him, he's reloading his bolt-action rifle. This is where I first noticed a problem with the Ren character. He's supposed to be a tough, hardened bounty hunter that's been in the game for some years now. Instead, he makes a stupid rookie mistake of letting the zombie get too close. He had his handgun and a knife for close quarter fighting, but doesn't use them until the Z actually grabs him. So, finally, after taking out the horde, we meet the main antagonist and his crew. Blythe Remington is the head man. Jackson, Walters, and Hunter Leia are his hired guns. It seems Hans double-crossed Ren and told him where he was. Ingrate. Blythe has the drop on Ren and demands the bag of pinkies that Ren has just finished gathering. They've crossed paths before due to a shortage of zombies in the area, and he wants Ren completely out of the game. Blythe gives him two options: drop the bag or just drop. Ren says there's a third option, and I thought we were actually going to see something cool. Instead, Blythe outdraws him, shooting him in the side, and Ren drops to the ground. Dead. Or so it seems. Jackson cuts his pinky off as he's lying there and adds it to the bag. What a jerk. Blythe takes the bounty and hauls butt with his crew. Hans is sore over this as he didn't get the cut he was promised, so he steals Ren's jacket and hat, saying adios amigo as he leaves. Okay, Hans is supposed to be French with a German name, but uses Spanish instead of either of those. He already has a European accent, by the way. It wouldn't have been a stretch or weird to hear him say something else. Moving right along, he leaves Ren for dead and heads off to track down Blythe for his money. He encounters a zombie later and ends up dropping the gun Ren gave him. Back in town, Ren wakes up groggy and begins crawling towards his rifle and stuff. A zombie hears this and ends up biting him on the arm before he kills it. I didn't think he was injured at first because they forgot to add the bite makeup to his arm for the close-up immediately after. Sloppy work, not entertainment. Sloppy work. Of course, you already know he won't turn, so it's not so bad. So Ren walks out of town in search of revenge. Soon he finds the gun that Hans dropped, and a few seconds later he finds Hans washing in the creek, but he has the drop on him.
Ren, you're alive?
Unfortunately, he doesn't take advantage of it though. Hans manages to talk his way out of death by telling Ren he knows where Blythe is. Ren agrees to keep him alive, for now. As Ren and Hans are following Blythe's trail, they have to stop and rest a moment. Ren decides to use this moment to suck out the virus poison from zombie bite. Sorry, but that would have been well circulated by now and not removable that way anyway. They come across Walters, who spotted Hans but not Ren, and is about to shoot him. Ren has the drop on him.
What's the matter, Walters? See a ghost?
Again, he doesn't take advantage of it. You know, I'm starting to think Ren is a bit of a poser. So Walters attacks Ren, knocking the gun out of his hand. Hans grabs it immediately. Ren finally gains the upper hand, knocks Walters to the ground, and conveniently placed the zombies finish him off. For the second time today, Hans betrays Ren by pointing the gun at him, but Ren grabs it and they leave. Elsewhere, Blythe and the other two agree that Walters probably didn't make it, so they proceed through a tunnel towards their base of operations. Minutes later, Ren and Hans show up, and Hans tells him they're right through there. You don't need me to go with you any further.
Alright.
Just kidding. Of course Ren wouldn't do that. He's a nice guy. They go into the tunnel, and without explanation, there are bodies all over the place. Hans trips over one, screams like a wuss, and suddenly the bodies all sit up and attack.
Shut up, Hans. You're loud enough to wake the dead.
Ren helps Hans escape the clutches of a zombie, only to get himself swarmed in the process. Hans runs away, leaving Ren to be devoured. Outside the tunnel, Hans sits down and realizes he was bitten anyway. As he's feeling sorry for himself, Ren walks up, having somehow escaped the horde. Dumb luck. And... if only. No, he doesn't shoot him yet. There's a scene first that's supposed to make you feel sorry for Hans, but it doesn't. Hans turns, then Ren finally shoots him. Hooray! At Blythe's base of operations, we find out that he has a dark plan to increase the zombie population and continue bounty hunting. He's been infecting people as they go from town to town. Unfortunately for them though, the zombies that rose from the last town he infected followed them to the base. Ren arrives on the scene and slips in an unsecured door. That's convenient. You'd think, with the end of the world as it is, they'd lock up. Oh well. In another section of the house, Hunter Leia believes Blythe is crazy, and she tells him as such. He responds with a sob story that's supposed to make you feel bad for him, but it doesn't. With the zombies at their doorstep, they split up to take them on. Let them come to you, Blythe says. So Leia ends up finding Ren, and it turns out they're secretly working together. She tells him what's going on, but unbeknownst to her, Jackson overhears everything from the next room. When she leaves, she's startled by Jackson, but doesn't know he heard anything. Leia plans on shooting Blythe when he's not looking, but she's thwarted by Jackson, who's loyal to him. Blythe immediately holds a gun to Leia's head and calls to Ren to show himself. How exactly does he know Ren's there? Jackson didn't tell him. Leia didn't give up anything, and Ren hasn't made any moves yet. Just how does Blythe know Ren has anything to do with Leia? Just before Blythe pulls the trigger, Ren cuts the power and opens one of the doors, letting in the Z's. The zombies make a beeline towards Blythe and the other two, and they all three run upstairs. As they run, I notice Leia's got her gun again. I guess Blythe gave it back to her when the Z's got there. Here you go. I'm sure you won't try to point it at me again. As they run upstairs, Jackson falls behind behind and is killed by zombies. Blythe just watches, unfazed. This would have been the perfect time for Leia to double back, shoot him while he's distracted, take in the fingers, escaped, and met up with Ren on the outside. But I digress. After watching Jackson die, Blythe runs into Ren and Leia. Leia has the drop on Blythe, and it looks like they're gonna have a shootout. Ren repeats the very words back that Blythe said just before shooting him earlier. Drop the bag, or just drop. But instead of something cool happening, they stand there so long that zombies sneak up on Blythe and rip his guts out. He drops the bag of fingers, and Ren starts to grab him, but Leia thinks it's too risky. While she's sidetracked with Ren, a zombie crawls up and bites her leg from behind. Ren quickly grabs Leia and they run into another room. She's about to die and Ren tells her to fight it. Meanwhile, Blythe rises and shambles on. As Leia's lying down and fading fast, Ren remains optimistic that she'll make it. Behind him though, Zombie Blythe shows up with the bag of pinkies and a gun in his hand. Really? Oh well. Ren turns to Blythe and shoots him. Nice and quick like. Apparently though, that wasn't good enough. Blythe rises again and shoots Ren in the back. Ren shoots him in the head this time and grabs the bag. After all that, Leia dies anyway. Ren can't bring himself to shoot her and leaves her there to turn. In the next room, he comes across a sword, conveniently hanging up on the wall. So he takes it and kills all the zombies that wander into the room before climbing up to the roof. He sits there until dawn and ponders killing himself. Suddenly, Leia pops up from the ladder. Yay! But she's a zombie now and Ren shoots her. The end. Where to begin? For all the complaining I do, I was actually entertained by this movie. I wish the character of Ren had a better movie to be in with skills to back up his image. I guess that's really what irks me the most. Ren isn't good with guns, hand-to-hand combat, dealing with zombies, or handling human interactions very well. In an end-of-the-world scenario, someone like him should handle things like being double-crossed so differently. Ren, in my opinion, is a huge Clint Eastwood fan, so he finds a spiffy costume and heads out with no skills or training to become a bounty hunter. He's just lucky he knew about the inoculation or he would have been dead long ago. Overall, I give this movie a 4 out of 10. It had potential. That's all for now though. This has been Xylestos with the wide world of zombie movies reminding you to be safe, be smart, be ready.